What's going on, everybody? I'm going to show you how to vinyl wrap the hood on this Audi A4. As you can see, the hood is pretty damaged. Not necessarily damaged, but it has a lot of paint correction done. The paint, this car has been resprayed, so the paint was coming off. It's been resanded, and we're going to be wrapping over this using Teckwrap Super Matte Autumn Blaze. Fantastic new color. The rest of this side is done, so you have to check out YouTube as far as seeing what's been going on as far as this side goes. We're going to be measuring out the entire span of the hood, and then we're also going to be prepping the surface, wrapping the entire hood, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. First off, I have a soft tape measure, so I've stuck a couple of magnets on it, and we're going to measure out the width of the hood. Now, if the hood is longer than 60 inches from front to back, we might have a situation where we have to do a seam or stretch the vinyl out a little further. That really depends. So you guys can ask me any questions that you want while we're here. So this hood right now, end to end, is about 65 inches wide. From front to back, let's just check it out. It's about 54 inches front to back. Now the vinyl comes 60 inches tall, which is about 5 feet, and it comes 19-ish yards long. So we've got about 60 feet long and always 5 feet tall. And that allows us to be able to wrap this hood in one piece. Now, do I need to do anything specific to prepare this surface before the wrap? Yes, I do. I need to use isopropyl alcohol and a clean cloth. I have video right over here, guys. So if you want to ask me some questions, feel free to ask me some questions along the way. I'm going to be looking at your comments and seeing what you'd like to see or know along the way. This is a live video, right? So it's not often that I do this. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be wiping this surface off with isopropyl alcohol. So I have 70% isopropyl alcohol right here, and we're going to wipe it down. The reason why we want to wipe this down is because we want to strip down the surface contaminants of any wax, grease, oils, anything of that kind. Let's get it off the surface and make sure we have a nice, pure surface. Now, again, this is not the nicest surface to be wrapping on, but the film has a really good adhesion. So I'm not worried about it, personally speaking, as far as wrapping this hood goes and some of the areas not having any paint, because Teckwrap sticks very well to many different surfaces. Even this matte surface right here. So we're gonna wipe this down. Make sure you wipe front to back. It's super important. We wanna be wiping off any loose particles, debris, that sort of thing as we go back and forth here. And you can see that I misted the surface as I wiped the hood. Now you can mist the cloth. That's not a bad idea to mist the cloth. Misting the cloth actually prevents you from having too much isopropyl alcohol, maybe dripping off of the edges or anything like that. So just to throw that one out there. Now that we've wiped off the surface, we can wipe off the underside. So typically I like to wipe off the surface first, because it's a little bit cleaner than the underside. Now the underside can be a little bit dirtier, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be spraying the cloth down and making sure that there's nothing on these edges as far as all the way around goes, pretty much. Now we don't need to use the cloth like really far in. We need to only go about 1 inch or so inside the edge, and I mean that's more than enough. This hood is a little bit different as far as wrapping goes, because the hood corners on the back corner on each side actually drop down and around, or down and behind the actual fenders, which makes it a little bit more tricky, a little bit more hard to wrap. Let's move my tape measure out of the way. So just to get you, in the groove of things, most hoods don't drop down behind the fender as far as the back corner goes. This one does. So this makes this one a little bit more tricky to do. If you guys want me to move the camera into a specific position, I can move it. So just let me know. But I want to show you as much as we can as far as all of this goes. Again, the color that we're using today is Super Matte Autumn Blaze from Teckwrap. I have my piece already cut. It's on the side of the vehicle right over there. Now that I have the surface prepped, it's a good idea to bring the film over to the panel and actually put it down, because we don't want anything maybe falling from the ceiling or any other contaminants getting onto the surface. So let's put this isopropyl alcohol down, and let's grab the actual film and bring it over to the hood. Now I'm going to show you I'm going to explain one thing right here, right now. So I had this top section where my hands are anchored to the top quarter panel of the vehicle. Now I want to keep this at the top where my hands are, and I want to keep the bottom at the bottom. Why? Because if I bring the bottom up to the top, there's a possibility that I could get contaminants that were on the floor underneath my wrap, and we don't want that. Now this color isn't really true right now. We're going to see exactly how this goes as far as removing the cap goes, because the cap is there to protect the film for shipping purposes. Now, what I'm doing right now before I even remove the protective cap is I'm actually sizing up my panel. So we want to make sure that I have excess film on the left over here, and I want to make sure I have excess film on the right side over here. I measured this panel at about 68 inches or maybe less than that, and I cut around 72, 73, 74 inches even. We don't want to go too wide as far as our wrap goes, because if we end up with an extra, I don't know, let's say 8 to 10 or 12 inches on the ends, we're going to have too much vinyl. It's going to be very hard to actually wrap the hood with. So it's good to have a sizable amount as far as extra goes, but not too much. If we have too much, that's a problem. Let's begin with positioning the film. What we want to do is we want to position the film on the flattest part of the hood, which is this area right here in the middle. You can see the film sits very nicely in this area right here, all the way across. I have magnets. These are super important to have, but if you don't have a car that is magnetic, you can actually just peel up a corner and place that down. Now, I'm going to only come about an inch past this top corner right here, about an inch. Why? Because we don't need any more vinyl coming up this way towards the window. That just doesn't even make any sense. We want to actually limit how much vinyl is sitting on the window. If we have too much vinyl sitting on the window, that's a problem, because it creates a big air pocket in this area. So it's usually not a good idea, just keep this in mind, it's not a good idea to trim this area out at this moment, unless you have a PET release liner, which is on the super gloss films from Teckwrap. A PET release liner is a plastic release liner. The release liner, more or less, is this paper backing right here, which is on this one right now. But on a PET release liner is actually plastic. So if you cut here with the paper, there is a chance that you're going to draw paper particles in behind the film. If you cut with a plastic release liner or PET release liner, you're most likely not going to draw in any paper particles underneath the film. Those paper particles are called, well, once it gets under the film, it's called dusting. Dusting isn't really a nice thing to have. Dusting looks like dirt, and you don't want anything that looks like dirt or contamination underneath your wrap. So now that I have my panel sized up, I'm just going to double check this side here. We're good. Always double, triple check your panels. And I'm going to begin to remove the plastic protective cap. Now, just for example here, we only have about 4 inches extra as far as the end goes. It's not a lot of extra vinyl, which is good. I'm fine with this. Now, if you have a shorter hood, then you're going to want to trim off some of this to leave yourself about 4 or 5 inches of extra vinyl on the end of the hood. Same thing goes on each side, 3 to 5 inches on each side. And on the back, you will have plenty. So don't even worry about the back too much. Do as I said, and just leave yourself about an inch past the top corner. Let's remove this. Now this plastic cap cannot be installed. This plastic cap cannot be installed with the vinyl. If we remove that. If we try to install the plastic cap on the vinyl, it's going to be a problem, because we're not going to be able to set ourselves up for a good situation, okay? We know, or at least I know, that wrapping down into this area here, and this is as far as almost all hoods go, in the front corner on the left and the right side, it becomes more bunched up, or it becomes more extra material here. Now over here, it's very flat, so it's very easy to wrap. But if we leave this on, we can't set ourselves up for this area over here because this does not stretch. So just to show you, like I can't pull this at all. I'm pulling with pretty much all of my might. Let's get that out of the way. That is solely for shipping purposes. Now that we have that off, we can actually remove the release liner. So let's do that. And it's easier to peel essentially the sticker side off of the release liner. So I can peel the sticker side off. And we're gonna roll that out underneath. Now, I'm gonna keep this film as flat as possible as I remove the release liner. Why? Because we don't wanna have any creasing or bunching in the middle here. That would be a bad thing. We don't wanna have any creasing or bunching in the middle here. If we have a crease in the middle, it means we have to heat it, which is not a good thing. If we heat the crease on a polymeric film, I'll explain it in a second. Let me remove this. So again, keeping it flat the entire way, all the way off. So if we have a crease in a polymeric film, it means that if we heat that creased area, which is in the middle here, it's actually going to pre-shrink the film. If the film pre-shrinks in just this area, it makes the rest of the surrounding area very hard to wrap because that area has changed and the surrounding area hasn't changed. So it's very important to not get any creases. If you do get a crease when you're removing the release liner, what you have to do is you have to actually heat that crease and then also heat all the way out. I didn't get any creases. There are a bunch of wrinkles, but creases are much different. We'll get further into that in different videos, and I'll purposely make that happen so you can see that. Now, what we need to do here before we do anything is flatten this out. If we don't flatten the film out, it's gonna be very hard to squeegee. Now that the release liner has been removed, we could potentially trim out the window area right here. So trimming out this window area right here is not a bad idea because the film will not sit on the window anymore, which will make it a lot easier to not have air or a gap in this area or space. So let's trim that out. Always be careful when you're trimming with your knife. We have to always be mindful of where our knife is and potentially touching. We don't want our knife to touch the paint or the wiper blades or the window even, because our knife can scratch the window. Now, I'm gonna remove these magnets out of the way. Let's put them on the glass up here. We're going to flatten it out, so I'm gonna grab one end down here, and I'm gonna grab one end up here. And the idea in doing this is to pull very tightly across the actual panel. This is more or less the same with a hood, a door, a roof, a bumper, a quarter panel. Doesn't really matter so much. It's almost the same for everything. We want to flatten the film out. Now this one on the hood is a little bit different. We have gravity working against us. Gravity can be a problem because with a film that is not, let's say, maybe pressure sensitive, or a film that wants to grab to the surface right away, gravity is pulling the adhesive down to the surface. And that can actually cause a problem as far as getting air out. And we want to make sure we can get the air out of the film as easy as possible. This way we can work much faster. If we don't get the air out of the film as easily as possible, it's gonna slow our process down. So I'm gonna show you again how to do this today. So this car right here has a high body line right here, and it has one on the other side. So my focus is to pull the film from that body line to this body line, and then I maybe have to go back to the other side and do the same thing. If we don't do that, we're not gonna have a very flat piece of film. If you find, there's a little pro tip here, if you find that the film is extremely sticky, you can take some baby shampoo, mix it with about 2 milliliters, about 2 pumps from a baby shampoo bottle. You can mix that with about 1 quart or 1 liter of water and you can actually spray that onto a cloth and you can wipe it onto the surface of the panel only in the largest, flattest area. And that will help the film not stick so much because you don't really need it to stick here that much. It's mainly in recessed areas or areas where you have to stretch down and into or around corners and stuff like that. But on a flat area, even if we have stretch here and no tack or no glue, the film is still going to stay because it's flat. Let's take this anyway. Let's do this up. So I'm lifting the film up and I'm going to make sure that my film isn't snagged like right under here. It's a good idea. Room temperature is very important. You don't want it to be too hot. You don't want it to be too cold. You want it somewhere around 21, 22 degrees Celsius, around 72, 73, 74 Fahrenheit, 71 to 74 Fahrenheit, let's say. So that's where you want your temperature to be. Now we're gonna take this, I'm gonna lift it like a bed sheet, watch. Just like that. And I'm gonna be spreading my arms out. Now what I'm looking for right now is the flattest, largest area. And I'm keeping my arms spread out like I'm trying to fly, and that helps keep the film flat. Now we did get some wrinkles right over here. That's fine. We're gonna lift that up and pull it out to this corner over here. Now when I add tension to the film, what I'm doing over here is I'm tacking the film to the fender. Same thing as I come around. Anytime I add tension to the film, I'm gonna be tacking it down to the opposite panel. So wherever, down here, I have no bumper on the car right now, that's totally fine. I can stick it to other areas. And now you can see what's happening here. Now, as we get down here, we have almost no slack anymore. It's pretty amazing, right? This film stretches very nicely as it is. We don't have to add a lot of heat in order to get it to conform around more basic or less complicated areas. As things get more intense, let's say like a mirror, then yes, we're gonna have to add heat, but that's with any film, so it doesn't really matter. So right now, I'm gonna be pulling the film out to this corner, and I'm trying to counteract my wrinkles by pulling left and right. Now again, many of you did notice at the very beginning that this hood was quite damaged. And if you do go ahead and rewatch the video, you'll see the hood was quite damaged. That's okay. The film is going to protect the actual panel from rusting unless a stone pierces it. Okay, look at this. It's beautiful right now. It's so flat. The only areas that are not flat are exterior of this body line right here. So on the outside of this body line right here. So we can take all of this right here from the very front, almost the very front, all the way up to the top. Now, because this is a super matte film, it's extremely difficult to see where the air is. But what you want to do is you want to be making sure that you're overlapping your passes. If you're not overlapping your passes, you're going to run into areas where you left air behind. So it's extremely important to overlap your passes. Another thing that's important is to press firmly. Very small marks, and you're going to see these somewhat shiny little lines as you're pressing. Those lines will go away with heat. So if you add a little bit of heat, they will go away. So let's keep working our way all the way out to here. And I'm not going to stretch into this recess right here just yet. I'm going to do the other side first. And I haven't gone all the way up to the very top corner also. Why? Because I'm just going to take care of this area first. And same thing on this side. So we're going to start. I'm going to overlap my pass, making sure that I have a little bit extra squeegee coverage. I have no idea if I'm actually squeegeeing the air or not. I know that I'm squeegeeing the air, but I may be squeegeeing right now an area that I have already squeegeed. So we're going to take this and we're going to, again, make sure we're overlapping those passes. If we're not overlapping those passes, there's a really good chance that we're going to leave air behind. You don't want to leave any air behind because getting an air bubble out of the middle of the panel is extremely difficult. Okay, so I'm lifting this edge up back here. The film has been sitting quite a while over here since I set this side up first. Very common with any film that the film is going to begin to settle. And you want to make it as easy as possible to let the air out. So we're always working the air from the middle area out towards us. Now, we're working it out towards myself at the side of the car. I'm also working it out to the back, and I'm also working it out to the front. So we're working it out systematically where we feel comfortable with the way things are going, and that makes a big difference. So I lift up the edges usually. That lets the air out of the edges because the edges can get very tight since we pull the film around it. Again, I haven't added any heat yet or a heat gun or anything along those lines as far as being able to stretch this film goes. I'm going to show you some really cool stuff in a moment. So I have to just fix up a couple of wrinkles that I have here. I have to pull them the opposite direction. So if my wrinkle runs this way, I have to pull it this way. So the complete opposite direction, that's how you counteract your wrinkles. Eventually you run into a point where no matter what you do as far as pulling goes, you can't pull the wrinkles out. And that means you usually add a little bit of heat, or it usually means you add a little bit of heat. Now I'm going to grab my heat gun because this is about the time we're going to need it. And we're going to finish up the front end here. So I don't have a lot of extra material here. There's some slack as far as this goes. There's not a ton, there's just a bit. And I'm going to tighten up that area right here. When I lift the film, notice what I do. I actually hold the film towards me. Watch. That's how I do it. And then if I need to go higher, I actually lift my hand or put my hand underneath and I pop it up. Just make sure your hands are clean. Obviously, there's always risk of contaminants when we touch the film. We don't want to get any contaminants under the film, so make sure your hands are clean. You could get a hair under there or something from your knuckle or your hand. It's very possible. A hair can be pulled out, while dirt, on the other hand, is much more difficult to remove. So just make sure your hands are not actually dirty or greasy or sweaty or oily. Now, this area here, we have a lot. It's not that much extra material. All we're gonna do is we're gonna pre-shrink the film. So I'm gonna lift this area up. I have a nice smooth line from about here to here. And we're gonna pre-shrink this film. Because it's a polymeric, we can use the pre-shrinking ability that this film has to shrink it and tighten it up without even stretching it. It's actually amazing. And then I'm just gonna let the film stick to my fingers. I'm not even grabbing it with my thumb, right? And I can place it down. And I didn't stretch this film, not even 1 millimeter towards that edge. Nothing. There's no tension at all towards that edge. It's an amazing little trick or technique to understand or to know. Now over here, same thing. I have extra material. So let's pop that up because I want to go a little bit higher. You always want to go to the tops of your wrinkles. If you don't go to the tops of your wrinkles, you're not going to have success in getting out all the extra material or the slack. Now I have a little bit of tension with my left hand again, and we're going to pass by starting at our hands, and we're going to work our way in towards where it's connected or where it touches the actual hood. Again, I'm just going to take my hand and bring it down with the film simply sticking to my fingers. And I'm not even stretching this, guys. Like it's so easy. If you do exactly as I say, and as I'm showing you, you will have really good success with wrapping this panel and other panels. We'll get into more panels later on, we'll get into some really good live videos where I show you how to do this. Now this area here, you can see maybe that there's some tension, there's some wrinkles, and we're gonna lift this area up and just like that, and we're gonna take some heat and pass by again and let the film pre-shrink. Now, when I have my heat gun pointed at that area, the heat gun must constantly be moving. If it's not moving, that's a bad thing because we're gonna end up burning the film and we don't wanna burn the film. That's gonna cause a big problem. It'll cause shiny spots or change the color or anything along those lines. So we don't wanna burn the film. Now, we're gonna go and tackle this recessed area right here. I don't even really need to add a lot of heat as far as this area goes. I'm gonna fix this area up at the top, make sure everything's nice and streamlined, and then also make sure that I can work the air that's in here out at the top. So we need to make sure that the top area over here is released. Perfect. So all I'm doing right now is leaving a very small or very narrow channel, which will allow the air out to the top. And now if the air ends up getting stuck in this area, what we have to do is we have to release it with our other hand, and that will help us squeegee that down. Now I'm going to shrink this area also. So again, I'm pre-shrinking this area. And I can see the air's going to get stuck somewhere in here. Okay? We're going to lift it up. So I can feel the bubble getting bigger and bigger. All we're going to do is just lift the film up slightly. Right there. And I can see now that the bubble is connected all the way out to the very end. If we make any mistakes along the way, if you get a crease or anything along those lines, you can heat it out. You just add a little bit of tension to the film. You don't heat and stretch it. You just add a little bit of tension to the film, and that's pretty much it. Okay, here. This is a big problem area for a lot of people. You can see there's a lot of extra vinyl just kicking around. On this particular hood, I don't have to do anything too crazy. So all I did there was lift the film up. You saw how I carefully lifted the film up. I didn't try to rip it off of the panel. So I carefully lifted the film up. I'm going to squeegee some of this film out. And up here is actually like very, very easy. So anything that's kind of here and back is going to be very easy. This is where the problem is, where we have extra vinyl. Now we don't want to take this extra vinyl and stretch it downwards. We want to pre-shrink the vinyl. Okay, so watch this. Again, same thing. Watch my left hand very carefully. It will not move from the position that it is right now. Fanning the film. And we're watching the wrinkles basically disappear. And when the wrinkles disappear, we're good to go. So I'm going to take my hand and bring it down, and the film is just sticking to my hand. I'm not pulling it. I'm pulling it kind of because it's sticking to my hand, but it really gives you a better perspective if you just let the film stick to your hand and then place it down that way. Because if you actually grab the film and pull it down, what's going to happen is you're more likely to stretch it farther than you need to. If the film isn't going flat or going down when you're bringing it down while it's stuck to your hand, if it's popping off your hand or you're getting too much extra material, what you need to do is usually add a little more heat because you haven't softened the film enough. So it's all about material handling and that balance of heat versus stretch, or the heat versus tension in a sense. The heat versus tension is extremely important. If you don't have enough tension as you're heating, then you end up with usually too much material at your edges or your ends, or anywhere for that matter. Let me go to the other side and finish up that side. So super easy, right? I didn't even stretch this. My hand did not move. Let's go to this side right here. We're going to finish off this recessed area. So exactly what I did on that side, we're doing it on this side. I'm going to pre-shrink all of this area right here. Might as well you can just throw my glove on. It's more of a right-handed thing, and when I squeegee my film into the recesses, I'm not so much a right-handed person. I'm more of a left-handed person, but I am a right-handed person, which is kind of weird, right? So I'm going to take my right hand and squeegee the film right into that recess. This is a very low-profile recess, so you don't even have to worry about maybe the film popping out or anything like that. It's super low. We'll get into, again, more videos where areas and showing you areas where there's higher tension and lower tension. This is a very low tension area, so I'm not concerned about it. Now, again, it's the same situation more or less. This side's set up a little bit better. I don't have to do a lot. I can squeegee this out as far as this area goes right here. And then again, we're going to pop this area up. Now, one suggestion here is if you have a lot of extra material on the very end of your hood, or on the corners here, which you probably will, is you're going to find the edge of the hood, which I have right here. I'm going to put my hand right here. I'm going to cut just below my hand and leave myself about a handful of film to hold on to. That's going to allow us to actually put our hand in a better position when it comes to A, lifting the film, and then B, adding that pre-shrink ability that we need to use to be able to do this. Now, again, I have tension here. You can see the film's tight. It's tight like a balloon, but I'm not going to stretch it towards myself. So watch my left hand. I have my elbow anchored to my leg. My left hand shouldn't move at all. I'm going to start heating at my hands, and we're going to work our way in to that area there. If we heat and stretch right now, and we pull this vinyl towards us, we run the risk of discoloring the film. So all I'm going to do is bring the film down. Now, I'm doing this one-handed. If you find that you need to maybe add a little tension in one area, just going to pinch it and bring it down and spread some of that film out. It's a good idea. It's not a bad idea to do that. It will help you. I'm more or less showing you it can be as easy as one hand. Until you more or less get the hang of it, it just depends on how you feel about it. If you feel like using two hands, use two hands. Now this little area over here, I haven't added any heat yet to it. Right here, I have a little bit of bunching of film. We're gonna add a bit more heat right where my hand is. And again, I'm not stretching the film. I'm just going to keep the film tight and bring it down nice and flat. This way we have no tension on our edges. Okay, we're almost done as far as this goes. We're gonna finish this area off right here. And I'm gonna lift that up. Super easy. Okay, cool. Now, all of the air is squeegeed out. Always make sure you've gone over everything, making sure that you have no air left under the surface of the wrap. The air bubbles will come back to bite you. So make sure there's nothing left. What we need to do now is we need to actually do the back area over here. This back area over here is harder on this particular hood than most hoods. Because again, normally I can lift the hood up and that actually gives me better access to these back corners. This hood, when I lift it up, is actually going to cause the back corners to dip down. So all I'm gonna do is pre-tuck the film in behind the back corners. I'm lifting off of the fender right now, and I'm gonna pre-tuck that film in behind those back corners. Makes a big difference. Then, because I haven't heated this area, remember what happens with the pre-shrinking, because we have a polymeric film, when we pre-shrink the film, it makes a huge difference as far as just shrinking around areas goes. This is the best way to install this product. I mean, take it for what it is, right? But in my opinion, this is the best way to install this product. There's no tension on the film, and we're using the ability of the film that, because it pre-shrinks, or because it shrinks, we're using that ability to aid us in a great, durable end result without the film lifting off of any edges. Now that I have the film wrapped down around the back corner over here, it's cold right now. So basically what I'm doing is I'm pushing the film down around the back corner while it's cold. If you do it while it's hot, you're gonna be shrinking the film before you really want to shrink the film. So now that I have that back corner ready to go on this side, I'm gonna lift it off of the fender. Now, if you find that you're having the film stick too much to the fender, you can put a little masking tape there. That'll help you. Again, it depends on how you feel about things. So I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna lift it off of the fender, and I'm gonna shrink it down and around that corner. It's friggin' beautiful. It's amazing. Okay, perfect. That's all it did. You probably saw the film move. Now, I didn't heat and stretch that film to begin with, so that shouldn't have really changed as far as shrinking goes, but the fact that the film pre-shrinks off of the roll makes a big difference. Now, all I'm doing right now is I'm actually just finishing up the corner, finishing up the edge, making sure it looks really nice before I do any cutting, and then we cut. So I'm gonna start in the middle here, and I'm gonna work my way out to the corner. Let's add a little bit of heat. Just make sure this area is sealed up really nicely. The heat is a very important step. So before we cut, we heat. So we need to heat, then cut, then heat again. And we haven't gone to that third step yet, and we haven't even gone to the second step yet. We're about to get to the second step, and part of the second step. So I'm gonna take my knife, I'm gonna run along the inside back edge of the hood. I'm gonna come right around the underside of the corner, right over here. I'm going to actually meet it from left to right underneath the corner. And I'm running my blade right underneath that corner there. It makes it super easy and just simple. Just simplify it as much as possible. Now I'm going to start my cut about 4 or 5 inches in because I know when I lift the hood, this area is going to get stuck. Not a bad idea to separate this area right now. Great. Wait till I show you this up close and in person when it's all done. It's going to look great. Now I'm going to cut off my extra film right here. I have a little bit too much. We're going to go do the same on the other side, and then we can lift the hood up. So let's do that. As you notice, I turn my heat gun on right away. I don't mess around. I don't want to wait. We want to go ahead and get this done sooner than later. Again, normally without instruction, this is going to take me, 30 minutes to wrap this hood. So I haven't heated this corner yet. All I did was heat this backside area. I'm going to take my squeegee again. I'm using a more firm squeegee when I come around this corner here because it just feels better to me than a softer squeegee. And we're going to come right around that corner, right around that edge, about 4 or 5 inches in, and around this side a bit as well. And then once I feel like we're around it while it's cold, and I can see that my corner, all I have to do is put my squeegee under my corner and look at it, and I can see that my corner looks beautiful. So all I got to do right now is just heat it. But at the same time, make sure it's not sticking to the fender. Oh, I have a little air bubble there. That's okay. Air bubbles go away. As long as they're closer to the edge, it's a little bit easier. If they're more centered or more in the middle of the panel, it makes it a little bit harder. Amazing. So that's all good. Again, if we heat this film too much, it can get shiny. So I can see that the outside area that I'm cutting off has become shiny right over here. We don't want that to happen in the middle of the panel or anywhere for that matter on any part of the panel. So we make sure that we don't heat too much on areas that are seen. On the edge or underneath or areas that you're cutting off, it doesn't really matter at all. It's better to heat that edge up and make sure that the film is nicely heated and sealed. Again, the same thing goes for this side as it did the other side. I ran my knife in from the middle. I'm going to start right around here, underneath, about 4 or 5 inches in, and meet in the middle of the corner. And running my knife right underneath. The corner, it looks really good right now, but it doesn't look perfect yet. It looks really good. I'd say I give it like an 8. When I'm done, it'll be a 10. And again, I'll bring you in so you can see all of that at the very end. Now, it's not a bad idea, since I don't have access to this area once I put the hood up, is to just go over it with heats before we do anything else. So we'll put our wrap glove on, and so I've got my Teckwrap glove on, and we'll go over all of this with heats right now. I go point blank, and I keep my heat gun moving. Look at that, how close I am, right? Just keep your heat gun moving. If it sits there for more than a second, you might burn the film. You want to go about a quarter of a second or so as you're that close. Again, I'm going to take my squeegee right here because I can't get my finger in here. Take our squeegee and then finish up this edge right here. This corner looks amazing. I'll go over to the other side and do the same thing. Beautiful. This one was even easier. Now, because this car's probably been in an accident, and that's why it's been repainted, the corner here, or this edge over here, is actually a little bit tighter than that side over there. Just kind of throwing that one out there and letting you know. All right, let's lift the hood up. This is going to allow us access to the underside edge and allow us to squeegee the film around as far as we need to. I'm going to show you how far we need to squeegee it. Need and want are two different things. So let's lift the film off of the fender on this side, very, very carefully, but I'm being firm with the film. It's very important to control the film. Don't let the film control you. So again, lifting off of here, and then now we should be able to lift the hood right up. If you haven't popped the hood already, which is what I normally do from the very beginning, I leave the hood popped, then you'll have to pop the hood. That's it. Now, I'll just leave the hood in this perspective. It might kind of want to go up or want to come down. I'm going to try to balance it out where it's simple and easy to see. I'm gonna put my wrap glove on. This is a really good time to put your wrap glove on because you're going to be using it to go along the entire edge, all the way around, other than the very back edge, which you already did. Excuse me. Excuse me. All right. So I'm just gonna start over here. We'll get this area done. I'm gonna be heating from the top and pushing down, but you're gonna see more of this in just a second. So I have a very small wrinkle on this corner here. I'm gonna fix that right now, but I'll show you the rest in a second. Okay, cool. That was my fault because when I heated the film, so let's just put it this way. If we heat the vinyl too much and we run our finger across it, even with a wrap glove on, the problem is that the film becomes too gummy or too bubblegum-like. And what happens is our film or our finger will stick to the film, even with the wrap glove on. So we don't want to heat the vinyl up too much. We want to make sure that it's soft and warm, but not like bubblegum, more like a balloon. So let's work our way continuously around. So again, I'm heating a bit from the top and I'm working the top edge first. And I come around and I'm gonna work that corner right there. So how I'm gonna do this corner, I'm just gonna heat the heck out of it right there. I'm gonna roll it over from the top. Done, that corner is finished. I have zero tension on this edge. So how do I know I have zero tension on this edge? Because I have no wrinkles anywhere. Watch, there's no wrinkles, right? And if we have no wrinkles, we have no tension. That's an important thing to keep in mind. So we wanna go over each edge, 3 or 4 passes, at least 3 passes. See, the hood's gonna move a bit. That's all right. We wanna go over each edge about 3 or 4 passes, and we wanna be extremely thorough with our corners. Try and keep that hood balanced right there. Now, I'm gonna just flatten out my vinyl here because it kind of folded on itself. I just have too much vinyl on this edge, so I could have cut this off. Let's show you what's gonna happen on this corner. Let's heat that. I mean, the film basically did all of the work for me. I didn't have to do a lot. So let's again heat that. We're gonna add a little bit of extra oomph to it, a little bit of extra human touch, and that's gonna smooth that corner out beautifully. When we cut, I'll put the hood all the way up when we cut, but I just wanted you to see all of this right here. So again, I'm heating from the top. Yeah, I have some wrinkles here, but all of these wrinkles that are right there, they're extremely minor. I can see that they're not really a threat, and we're just gonna massage that area down as well. When we get to the corner right here, we're gonna take it and press down with our thumb again. So I actually grabbed the film a bit with my left hand, and then I worked that area down as it was warm, not too hot. So same thing, let's work all of this down. And then we're gonna get into the cutting, and then we have to heat one more time. If you don't heat one more time, you run the risk of the vinyl just kind of lifting off of an edge. Even though there's no tension there, it's a really good idea to just get in the habit of heating your edges and your corners a lot. If you heat your edges and corners a lot, you can be more or less confident that your wrap's going to last. Now I'm gonna take my knife and you're gonna see a lot better as I come along the front how I'm doing this. I'm gonna lift the hood up and give you a much better perspective here. Now my blade is running on the underside edge. This is, totally up to you how far you want to wrap around. I like to wrap around very minimally. Why? Because it's super clean to look at. Now we're going from this autumn blaze to red underneath the hood, and all we see is extremely fine line of the autumn blaze. The transition point is much cleaner. And it's gonna last. Why is it gonna last? Because I've already pre-shrunk the film at the edges by heating it before we cut. So that's super important. So let's keep going around and keeping tension with my left hand. I'm pulling down with my left hand. And I'm keeping my knife on the underside edge, and I'm not even actually cutting on any paint at all. So I'm pulling down with my left hand, as you can see. And if you're right-handed or left-handed, that will totally vary. But just to give you perspective on what's happening there. Now we're wrapped underneath that edge enough. We don't need to be wrapped around anymore. This piece can now be tossed away. The very last step that we have to do is heat, okay? This is This is the most important part. So the last 3 steps, more or less, not so much the cutting. The cutting we can fix afterwards if we make a mistake, as long as you don't cut more or less onto the actual paint itself. But we can actually fix, any extra film that we might have left underneath that might not look very pretty. Now, what we need to do is heat before our cut and heat after our cut. If we don't do these 2 steps, there is a chance, no matter what you're using, there is a chance that your wrap could lift or fail at the edges. So I'll start down here. This is just more a force of habit. I've been doing this for quite a while. We're gonna start down here, and I'm gonna work my way around the front to the driver's side area of the car. Now, how much am I heating this edge? I'm heating this edge at point blank. You can see the heat gun is constantly moving. If the heat gun isn't moving, we risk, maybe burning our hand or burning maybe these rubber trims, or, it's very rare that you're gonna burn the paint, but it is a possibility, I suppose. So again, let's just heat point blank and make sure that these edges are super sealed up. This is a post heat. Now, a post heat temperature is around the 200 Fahrenheit range. And with this edge being so skinny or so thin, and there being very minimal vinyl here, it won't take very long for that to hit 200 degrees. As soon as I point my heat gun at it, and this heat gun is around 12 or 1500 degrees, it's pretty much at that post heat temperature. So we don't have to worry about anything. This hood is now wrapped. It is finished. If you have, some shiny lines from squeezing it down, because this is a super matte film, that's very possible. All you do is go over it with your heat, and you soften them out. You can heat them out. You just have to, again, keep your heat gun moving. Super important. If your heat gun stops at any point right now, while it's this close, you're gonna cause a chance of burning the film or making a shiny spot. That's what the burn will look like. A burn will look like a shiny spot. You don't want that. This hood's finished. I'm gonna bring the camera in to show you exactly what this looks like so you guys can see exactly what these edges and what these corners look like. So let's lift it back up. And I wanna give you the best possible perspective on what we're looking at as far as this goes, because it looks clean. Again, this is the nice part about this, is that, the film is a different color, right? It's more of like a peach color, I would say. And you can see the edge just transitions off super nicely, right? Looks really nice. If we're wrapping a car that's completely the opposite color, maybe this is green, all we would have is a highlighted edge of green, which is nice to have just a highlighted edge of green. The corners of the hood is what I was talking about earlier. You can see that they dip down behind the actual fenders, which makes it really tough to wrap those corners, because normally when we lift the hood up, the corners are actually going to lift up with the hood. So super clean, right? This color is beautiful. You just saw the other side of the car, right? So it looks really nice. And again, I just wanted to kind of give you guys that 101 and how to install this particular vinyl. It's really important that you follow all of the steps that I've actually, shown you today in order to have the best possible result. Might as well close it all the way, whatever, I'm done. Best possible result. If you don't follow the steps that I showed you today, then you might not have the best possible result, but you just work on it. You'll get better as you go along. Guys, I'm gonna wrap this video up, no pun intended. I hope this video was informative and helpful in showing you how to do this. I look forward to doing more videos for you. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Take care.